I asked 16 content creators what they are hoping to see in the next Xenoblade game, which very likely will be their first big release on the Nintendo Switch 2. Every Xenoblade Chronicles game is now on the Nintendo Switch, and thanks to backwards compatibility, also on the Switch 2. It is quite remarkable how a series went from being completely obscure and unknown to a series that always gets mentioned if people talk about high quality and ambitious Nintendo games. This week, Xenoblade 3 turned 3 years old, which was the last new entry in the series. And with the release of Future Redeemed and the trilogy now being finished, plus Cross having received a definitive edition with an extra story that might give us a hint on what could await us, what will happen next? I have made a video in the past talking about my hopes and wishes, but what about other people that love these games just as much? For that, I wanted to bring everyone together who is part of the Xenoblade community to think about the possibilities of what could await us in the future, while keeping it spoiler-free regarding the story for people that may haven't played all the previous games. Monolith Soft is known for pushing systems and creating massive environments, and with the Switch 2 and it being multiple times more capable than the original Switch, while also seeing how Monolith Soft is rapidly expanding and upgrading their tools for creating games, the next game might be a game changer for that studio, and maybe even Nintendo and some of their IP. I have messaged multiple creators and asked for their opinion on that matter, and 16 of them decided to join in and share their wishes for a new Xenoblade game. Folks who have made videos on these games in the past, maybe streamed them, or made Let's Play videos on their channel. People that started their content creator journey not too long ago, and some legends who have been doing this YouTube game for far longer than any of us. First up, I'd like to thank you all for participating in this video, giving this little channel of mine a chance. All the links to all their channels are in the description down below. Let's start the video by going from one creator to another and hear what everyone has to say. How they got into the series, what connection everyone has with these games, and what they wish for in the next Xenoblade. And now, the curtain rises. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Monolith Soft has been incredibly busy in recent years, with regular recruitments as the company grows ever stronger. Their passion for not only innovating on their in-house technologies, but willingness to foster their lessons and ideals with each game has me on the edge of my seat, as with the Switch 2 era having begun, the shackles have truly been released. Hey everyone, it's YGGDRASIEL, and it is my pleasure to be able to join in on this discussion. So then, above all else, when I think of what I would like to see the most in Monolith Soft's next Xenoblade entry, regardless of it being Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or a Xenoblade X sequel, my number one hope is for the game to utilize the full breadth of what the Switch 2 is capable of. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and especially Xenoblade X Definitive pushed the boundaries of the Switch 1's hardware, but even back in 2017 with Xenoblade 2 and not even a third of their current employee count, they pulled some amazing work. With years of service mastering the hardware, recruiting fresh talent, and pushing their titles to the absolute limit, my foremost thought is to see just what wonders they could create with the next Xenoblade entry. I'd love to see the map styles similar to Xenoblade 1 or 2 with additional verticality and greater scale. Paired with the vibrant ground clutter and open world design choices of Xenoblade X, I want to see a sprawling world that feels more alive than ever before and isn't bound by the limitations of aging hardware. As for other game aspects, we are essentially entering a new arc of the series entirely. With this in mind, I would absolutely love to see more high fantasy than sci-fi baseline. With Xenoblade 3's Future Redeemed DLC, we essentially have a soft reset on the premise, and though I'm sure some laws and modus operandi will remain the same, a fresh start should initially have more grounded stakes in mind, at least for the bulk of the game. So then, paired with the pacing and grandeur of Xenoblade 1, the musical stylings and thematic expressions of Xenoblade 2, character interaction and cutscene choreography of Xenoblade 3, and the character building, customization, and quality of life that Xenoblade X Definitive presents with, give me all of these and you'll have me absolutely over the moon. Once again, thank you very much for allowing me to participate, and I look forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts. Cheers.
Oh, hey, sorry, I didn't see you there. Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Nice Guy, and some of you may know me from my Legend of Zelda videos, but Xenoblade Chronicles is actually my favorite game series of all time. It all started back in 2014 when Shulk got added to Smash. This got me interested in seeing what the game he was from was all about, so I ended up watching Chugga Conroy's Let's Play of Xenoblade 1, and I loved it. This, along with those super cool Xenoblade X trailers Nintendo was releasing at the time, convinced me to buy Xenoblade Chronicles X, and the rest is history. But enough about my backstory. Let's talk about what I want from the next Xenoblade game. You see, I'm not very picky because I do love all of the Xenoblade games fairly equally. Xenoblade 2 is the best though. So I do trust Monolith Soft in continuing to give us amazing games. My favorite thing about Xenoblade is the story, so as long as the next game blows my mind like this... What the heck? Oh, what? Oh my god! And makes me cry like this... I'll be happy. However, if I had to complain, Xenoblade 3 did have the weakest title screen in the series, so I'd love to see the next game improve on that. I mean, the Xenoblade 1 title screen is iconic, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a brand new title screen for every single chapter in the game, and that was awesome. And then there was Xenoblade 3, which was just... Another thing that I feel has gone slightly downhill is the world design. Xenoblade 1 has the coolest and most beautiful video game world of all time, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and X are also fantastic. Unfortunately, I felt that Xenoblade 3's world was a bit more bland and had less jaw-dropping moments, so hopefully Monolith Soft can make use of the extra power of the Nintendo Switch 2 to make something really special with their next game. And I guess other than that, maybe make Riku the main character, have the cast actually find the Xenoblade we've all been looking for, and I'll be happy.
Well, Sparks, you've done it again, and beat me to the punch on a topic I really want to talk about first, but no matter. In any and all upcoming Xeno games, no matter the direction they choose, I hope they keep pushing this sci-fi first, fantasy second stance. Think more Xenosaga or X, where the setting leans into space travel, technology, and philosophical drama, instead of the big massive titan is our world sort of thing. If I were designing it, the story would span multiple planets, each with their own distinct environments, ecosystems, and cultures to explore. Give me variety, an underwater world only accessible via machinery, a snowy world that's rock and ore shine a bright red, reminiscent of the planet Crate, or maybe even an area located in the void of space itself, which ether has transformed into a mystical haven. That kind of scale could give us the most refreshing and dynamic Xenoblade experience yet, and of course, that would mean new mechs to help us explore. Of course, Xenoblade X's skills were great, but I'd personally go for something a bit more modular this time around. Think customizable mech suits or vehicles using a streamlined version of the Poppy Swap system. Let us tune up different parts, change weapons, maybe even swap movement styles based on terrain, without the grind-heavy walls that held Poppy back. Something that rewards creativity without punishing your time. The vehicles they've started experimenting with were also great and show real promise for the future of the series going forward, and if Monolith ever decides to go back and reuse the idea of the Dreadnought from X's concept art and let us navigate around in it something like the Hresvelg, well then we may have a new contender for the coolest Xenoblade moment of all time. And while we're at it, real-time combat deserves more love. I'd love to see action arts, something I've talked about on my channel before, where dodging, positioning and movement are just as important as an art's cooldown. I really miss how the older games made your positioning feel meaningful, especially in battles where your location could make or break your strategy. The recent games have simplified this into go to the side, hit the skill button, boom. But there's so much more they could do with it. Boss fights like Colony Lambda or Farsis show what they're capable of, with their red zone of doom or the giant death laser you just need to move out of the way of, so just lean into it more. Now onto what I'm most known for, the lore. I'd love to see a world where the history and backstory are embedded into the environment itself. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is a solid example here. Scattered journals and artifacts that tell stories about the world long before you arrive. If Xenoblade 3 had more of that, we might have had a clear idea of what Ionios was really like in its early days, without needing a side story or DLC expansion to fill in the blanks. And even then, we're still mostly left in the dark. So when it comes to what I want from the next Xenoblade, bigger scope, smarter systems, more immersive storytelling. And hey, if a Nopon challenges me to a mech race halfway through the game, I'm not saying no.
Hello, I'm XENOBITS, and I've been playing the Xenoblade series since, I want to say around 2013. I just love these games so much, and it led me to end up creating a YouTube channel where I talk all about them. What do I think Xenoblade 4 is going to be? I don't really know. I think where the series is going to go is more open-ended than ever, to be quite honest with you. For a little bit of context, after Monolith had finished their previous RPG series, Xenosaga, the morale at the company was pretty low. They didn't exactly get to create the story they wanted to. Xenosaga was originally supposed to be 6 games. They only ended up getting 3. So they had to sort of truncate a lot of the story they wanted to tell in 3 games, and they ended up cutting a lot more of it. They're really unhappy with the outcome. They didn't like that they had to compromise their vision. Xenoblade 1 was supposed to be this self-contained, smaller scale adventure, which is interesting because Xenoblade 1 already feels like a massive scale adventure, but that's how huge their ambitions were. And, you know, they worked diligently at it. The game came out, and ironically, it became a smash success, and that ended up being the thing that they iterated on multiple times. They didn't even intend for anything to be past Xenoblade 1, really, which is why I think Xenoblade X is so different, because I believe it was midway through X's development when they had decided that they were going to do a Xenoblade 2, so I don't even think they went into that game believing that it would be connected by lore. Back when the game originally came out in 2015, I was of the opinion that Xenoblade would become this anthology series, sort of like Final Fantasy is or Dragon Quest. I think for the first time ever, they have a clean slate and they can actually tell any story that they want and have it work in the lore. And I think this is going to be the beginning of a new arc. I personally believe that Xenosaga is going to play some sort of role. They seem to be setting something up with the Xenosaga lore, so we'll really see. I think we're mostly done with the characters from the so-called Klaus trilogy. I'm sure that we're going to see Rex and Shulk again, and there's no doubt in my mind that Malos is going to play some sort of role, especially because Takahashi is being so coy about his involvement with the stuff happening in 3. So I'm sure we'll get little hints of that here and there, but I think it's largely going to be new territory going forward. Whether or not they actually go down that path and make a direct sequel to Xenoblade 3, or create something wholly new, I'm positive that myself and the others in this video are going to cover it very excitedly. I trust Takahashi and his team. I think they do great work over at Monolith Soft, and any story that they like to present us with is a story that I feel is worth experiencing. I love every second that I spend in these worlds. I'm confident that whatever comes next is going to be amazing.
Hi, my name is VTECH. Maybe you have seen some of my content through DB Geeks community. I've made some Unreal projects and animations within the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I'm kind of a new person to the Xenoblade franchise. I skipped generation between the GameCube and the Switch, so I got into the series only when Definitive Edition came out, the first game, and man, I was blown away. The story, the music, the world, the combat, everything I loved just about that game. I loved everything, and since then I've become a big fan. If it's not obvious already, you can, see what's behind me. Anyway, I think what I love about the series is the mixture of philosophy and sci-fi and the fantasy and the great characters and into the emotional stories. And the music especially pulls me into the game, like really hard. These games really make you feel something, which it's pretty rare nowadays, taking into consideration how, the state of the current gaming industry is. After I played Xenoblade 1, I've also played Xenoblade 2, I played Xenoblade 3, and all their DLCs, and as well Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition this year. What do I want to see in the future? Well, first I would love a sequel of some kind, or a kind of a follow-up to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. I think the game has a lot of potential, especially after the chapter they added at the end, and the ending of the game clearly leaves a little bit more room for developing more. I'm also hoping for, at some point in time, some remakes or ports of the Xenogears and Xenosaga for some modern hardware, since at the moment they are stuck on old and no longer supported, discontinued consoles, basically. And yeah, I know it's pretty complicated because of the cooperation that would be needed between Square Enix and Bandai Namco, but still I think, at least for the Xeno fans, it would be a great chance to experience these games, which most of them never had or don't have the experience to, or the possibility to experience those stories. Well, another thing, it's nothing new, but I've rephrased again, Xenoblade Chronicles, both 1, 2, 3 and X really need the Switch 2 update. Some patches for higher visuals, or at least higher frame rate, higher resolution, draw distance, etc. Those would be very welcoming. There's also, if any game on the series would be needing some updates, would be Xenoblade 2. I think Xenoblade 2 could really use the Definitive Edition. We might see that, but probably in a couple of years. I don't see it based on the current Definitive Editions that we have. And of course, I'll be happy to see like a completely new game, if possible, from Monolith. With new characters, new ideas, something that, as long as they would keep the same magic that from Monolith Soft. And also, it's kind of not like specific expectation of a game, but since I have a background in music and passion for music, I would love to see the composers from Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, and also X coming. I would love to see some mixture between Sawano's and Mitsuda, Ace, and Hiramatsu. Would be kind of cool to have like a mashup on a future game. That would be incredible. And well, in the end, I'm just excited to see what Monolith Soft is capable of delivering, especially now that we have the Switch 2, and also because Monolith Soft seems to have quite a lot of experience when it comes to game optimization on limited hardware. So whatever they are cooking, I'm here for it. But that's pretty much it. So thanks for listening to me, and long live the Xeno series.
A lot of people actually don't know this about me, but the Xenoblade Chronicles series is actually my favorite video game series of all time. And it's mainly because of the phenomenal stories, the fantastic voice acting, spectacular music, incredible gameplay, and so much more. So when I think to a potential Xenoblade Chronicles 4, there's a lot of things that I would love to see, but I also don't want to spoil you guys. So if I were to bring that back a little bit, my thoughts on what I would like to see for a Xenoblade Chronicles 4 game would be a bit superficial, but it would still be nice to see it happen. So I think the very first thing is kind of an obvious one that a lot of people would also love to see, I'm pretty sure, is another vast and expansive, beautiful world that's filled with so much life and secrets and so much more. Even something as simple as we actually get to see people walking along the pathways that we may take, so that way they're potentially going to their own destination, or whatever the case may be. And of course, one thing that I really love about the Xenoblade series is being able to venture off wherever you want to go. And you may end up getting lost in a sense, but in doing so, you find that one secret landmark and you get to view like that landscape in a way that maybe you didn't even consider viewing in a certain way, right? Like maybe you've only been on the lower end of that particular landscape, but the secret is on like a mountaintop or something of the sort. You get like this beautiful view of practically everything in that area. Things like that. Like I would love to see more of that added in Xenoblade Chronicles 4. But of course, moving to my next point, all that's all fine and good, but with a Xenoblade Chronicles 4 game potentially coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, I would like to see all of that in 4K. I mean, the Switch 2 can handle 4K, and it's not to say that the Xenoblade series has ever really looked ugly per se. Like even on the Wii, even though I know the graphics weren't really the best on the Wii per se, but it still looked decent for its time, right? And then of course we got Definitive Edition on the Switch. But the games are beautiful. They're very, very beautiful, like, and very appealing to look at constantly. So it would be cool to see like updated textures, probably like more details that they can add throughout the world. And of course, having a better resolution would enhance that experience as well. But moving away from all of that, the last thing I would love to see is honestly different combat styles. That with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, you practically had to swap characters to have a different style. In Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they gave us a little mix with it, depending on like the blade that you had attached to particular drivers or what the case may be. If we want to include Xenoblade Chronicles X, they kind of did that too. But it was really with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 where I truly felt like, okay, like they're really like diversifying these styles. Cause it was pretty much, you want to be a swordsman, be one. If you want to use like this weapon, do it, right? But I feel like they can expand that even more with different weapons that we probably didn't even consider to give us a whole new gameplay experience. So I would love to see something like that happen in Xenoblade Chronicles 4. Again, I know my thoughts might seem a bit superficial, but I really don't want to spoil anything because I could delve deep into like story elements that I would love to see. But for this video, I'll just stick with those three things.
So what are my hopes for the next Xenoblade game? Well, to be honest with you, I just hope they make a good game. As abstract as that is, all I really need is fun gameplay with a good compelling narrative and a fun cast of characters. To me, one of the biggest strengths of the series has always been the fact that each game has always done something different, has always innovated in some specific way, so every single game feels like a unique experience. Every single Xenoblade game, even extending back to Xenogears and Xenosaga, they've all tried something different with their gameplay, and just something different in general with the types of story and just their presentation of the story that they wanted to tell. And I think that's something that I'm hoping to look forward to in Xenoblade 4 or even Xenoblade X2 if it goes that direction instead. And while I'm sure it would also be really fun to have one of those games that just has a bunch of connections to previous games that we could all point out, I think this series works best when you try to make those standalone, just solid experiences that anyone can just kind of jump into and experience. So I hope Xenoblade 4 is something similar where new fans can easily get into the franchise, something new on the Switch 2 that maybe introduces them to the series so they go back and play the previous games and get introduced to more great and fantastic RPGs. I really just want to see the franchise grow more than anything to just kind of reward Takahashi and all the effort that Monolith puts in because they make some absolutely fantastic games. And honestly, I'm not very picky. I just want something fun, like I said. And I trust them to deliver on that front. They've always made some of my favorite games of all time because this is my favorite series of all time.
Hello there, Imperfect Works here, common varieties in YouTuber. From wacky lore and cosmology theories, character and art book analysis to geography comparisons, all powered up by PowerPoint, and have been making videos for a little more than 2 years by now. Xenoblade 4. Well, where to even start? It needs to have no ponds, big grass areas, gameplay and story. Shocking, I know. This will be a Switch 2 game. This could be huge. Better textures and geometry. Non-blurry resolution. Imagine real-time lighting instead of the same shadow maps. 60 FPS could do wonders. Perhaps a photo mode, and not just the UI-less screenshots. They've done wonders with eyes and facial expressions, but I'm really looking forward to improvements such as hair clipping being fixed or more natural transitions of the automatic animations. I hope we return to 4 or 3 party members. 6 plus 1 hero was too much on screen and lowered the difficulty. Perhaps more platforming this time. Let us run, but keep the fall damage. There needs to be punishment. More elaborate dungeons and cities. Expecting lots of verticality on cities this time around. Another personal idea, I want giant plants. Like these ones, but bigger. To give that "whoa, I'm small" vibe. And show lots of colors. We need vehicles back. The next gen Xenoblade is guaranteed to be big. Everything on foot could be painful. I'm hoping for mechs as every other Xeno game. Or even buggies or bikes. Find a balance between the vast areas of Xenoblade Cross and the more linear story progression of 2 and 3. If possible, still have everything connected, but I wouldn't complain if there were still loading screens. I just want bigger and denser maps. Keep exploration with completion lists like Future Redeem or Xenoblade Cross. Makes everything so rewarding. Keep the Cross Definitive Edition lore archive or database. Don't do a Tears of the Kingdom where important structures from the prior games mysteriously disappear. Even though the time skip could be from 10 to thousands of years, a fresh start, yes. But things that happened in the past shouldn't be gone just because. Like Shikatech. Perhaps replace the auto-attack, as people from outside attack this series as the games play themselves, because of it. But keep the art system, something akin to the original Xenogears. It wouldn't be too different from Xenoblade 2's step cancelling. I'm thinking on something like using buttons for a light and a heavy attack, the ZR during the art menu like Fusion Arts in 3. And also we heard they were working on destructible items. Amiibo support! We got 2 Xenoblade amiibos. We have 5 if we count the Smash Bros. Ones. Yet the latest release didn't include amiibo functions. Now, regarding returning characters, some are in favor, some are against, hard to decide. I could do with either of those options. However, we know that there are some characters that have some mysteries left. Some teased, some disappeared. But either way, I'm not expecting a very fan-servicey world. At most, all characters becoming town NPCs or minor mentor roles.
Hey guys, I'm Max Monado and I've been a Xenoblade fan since 2016 thanks to Show being at Super Smash Bros. On my own YouTube channel I talk about this series all the time with rankings or quick discussions, and now I'll talk about a few of my ideas for the next mainline Xenoblade game. So, my realistic prediction is that the next game will be a standalone title with some connections to Xenoblade 1, 2 and 3 that pop up later in the story. But what I want is for the next game to have a clear connection to Xenoblade X, because I still have some questions that I want answers to. I want to find out what Eleonora was up to during Yelp's Affinity quests, I want to find out who El even is, and to keep it spoiler free, I want to see some kind of follow up to the epilogue of X. I don't think we will ever get a direct sequel, because as far as I know, Xenoblade X didn't sell that well on the Wii U or the Switch, so again, I'm just hoping this game's universe gets acknowledged in some kind of way. I actually don't have any specific wishes for the story beyond that, but I do have some gameplay features that I definitely want to see return. I think it's insane that Xenoblade X is the only game in the series that has a run button, or sprint toggle. The movement options in Xenoblade X really helped to make both the exploration and the combat more fun. So please let us run again in the next Xenoblade. And speaking of combat, I hope that we can still switch between our party members in the middle of battles like in Xenoblade 3. No matter the game, there's just always a problem with the AI not using topple arts in time or not being able to survive like in Xenoblade X. Being able to switch to any party member definitely helps with that, and it would be a shame if they removed this mechanic. And finally, here's an idea I've heard in my comment section a few times. So, you know how most battle themes in Xenoblade 3 get a more intense climax version if the enemies are on low HP? Yeah, it's a cool idea, but sometimes the chain attack music prevents you from hearing that change in the first place. So, a solution is to make the battle themes switch to their intense climax version during chain attacks. Let's be real here, most of us use a chain attack when the enemy is at half of their HP and we can usually kill them from there. I love the idea of dynamic battle music in Xenoblade, and this way more people might actually get to hear it. Okay, to finish this off, there is just one final thing that I need to see in the next Xenoblade game, and that is Malos. I want to see Malos in the next Xenoblade game, and I am not elaborating on this. But anyway, thanks for having me on, SparksOpus.
The boiling hatred of loss, the vengeance slowly consuming you, but then perspective sets in and you drop the hot coal you were holding. Despite being hurt, you make an effort to understand the other because so were they. But now it is a double-edged sword. In the midst of protecting those you love, the recklessness and the passion ironically lead to their destruction. Takahashi-san doesn't just make games, he makes art, at least in my estimations. Art can be a window and art can be a mirror, but great art is both. You will never be a true artist if there's always a mask between you and the viewer. Especially when the viewer is you. See, I play games not just to have fun, but to learn more about life, the world, and myself. Xeno means relating to foreigners, but I feel oddly at home whenever I play Xeno. I find something of myself in Gears, Saga, and Blade, which might put pressure on the future. What will Xenoblade 4 be like? It is kind of self-evident that he will combine Xenoblade Chronicles X open world with the trilogy storytelling, but what else? Because increased ambition also means increased development time and more strain for Monolith Soft. Now, I don't know if Nintendo is breathing down their necks, but considering Takahashi-san has a tendency to rush the late game, looking at you, Gears, Saga, and Xenoblade 3, I hope that they're working not harder, but smarter. The dream for me is to find a way to combine the heavy lore, complicated world building, the epicness of Xenogears and Saga, with the superior character development and pacing of the Blade trilogy in an open world like Mira. Now, thinking about it, when that day actually comes, I think I'll have 2 years worth of analysis content for my channel to honor his blood, sweat, and tears. After all, game development isn't easy, especially not as the technology pushes the developers to bigger is better. But if you can work within the constraints of PlayStation 4 level hardware, just like Elden Ring did with its art style, The Last of Us Part 2 did with its fidelity, and Xenoblade X did with its resourcefulness, the best Xeno experience might yet to come. I would like to thank SparksOpus for inviting me to this beautiful collab with all my fellow content creators. Honestly, I can't wait to see what the future holds for Monolith Soft, and I hope I'll have the chance to be there with all of you, together, hand in hand.
Hi everyone, I'm Luxin, and I've been making content, mostly story and lore focused, on the Xeno series for over 8 years now. 2025 has been a very nostalgic and introspective year for me when it comes to my relationship to the Xeno series, and that's definitely changed what I want to see out of the next Xenoblade game. Most of this is of course because of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, and just the pure nostalgia that comes from seeing so many people play through that game just as cluelessly as I did for the first time back in 2015, but it's a bit more than that, and it's something intangible that I am only really able to feel about XDE and wasn't for, say, Xenoblade 1 DE a few years ago. And that's because X was my first new Xeno game. I'm putting that in air quotes because it's a little complicated what exactly I mean by that. X was not the first Xeno game I played or the first Xeno game I heard of, but it was the first Xeno game that I was getting hyped about because I was a fan of the Xenoblade series. My first game was the Wii version of Xenoblade 1, and after I beat that, I got to look at trailers for what had just recently been revealed to be called Xenoblade Chronicles X. And this was extra exciting because I didn't get around to playing Gears and Saga until after Torna came out, so like 2018-2019 period. And that means that while I knew those games existed, I wasn't aware of just how good the Xeno series is at fundamentally reinventing itself and doing something completely different when the need arises to do so. And that was just really exciting and filled me with a sense of wonder that I haven't really been able to get back from any Xeno game pre-release hype cycle since then. That's not the fault of Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 3, or either Definitive Edition, it's just that Xenoblade 2 was very much another game like Xenoblade 1, and that was super exciting in its own way because I thought that the next Xenoblade game was going to be a follow-up to X's story, and getting a 2 at all was a surprise. And then 3, combining 1 and 2 in all the ways it did, is really cool. But we haven't had that complete reinvention, brand new formula since the original Xenoblade X, and I don't know, I just have a feeling that whatever the next Xenoblade is, whatever the first Switch 2 thing in the series is going to be, is maybe even the last chance the series has of reinstilling that wonder in me. And I'm just excited by the possibility because I have absolutely no idea what the next Xenoblade game is going to be, and that is just really exciting to me. And the best part about that is, I think this is extremely intentional on Monolith's part. I don't remember exactly which interview it comes from, and I'm only mostly certain it came from Tetsuya Takahashi's mouth, but either way, someone very important to the Xenoblade series has gone on record recently saying that they want whatever the next entry to be to subvert people's expectations in a good way. And I think the in a good way is also really crucial because there were a lot of people who didn't quite like what Xenoblade 3, Future Redeemed, and XDE did, and I want the next game to be new and unique in a way that doesn't also exacerbate those people's issues with the recent changes in the series. But yeah, that's the big thing. This is the first Switch 2 game, so I want it to feel like a generational leap, like X did coming from Xenoblade 1. Now that doesn't necessarily mean I need it to be a pure open world game in the exact same style as X. I'd rather whatever the X sequel they're going to make to be that. Make an X2 and make that like the original X. Make a Xenoblade 4 and make that like Xenoblade 1 to 3 and make that a sequel to all of those games. But I want them to just do something completely different. I love when the Xeno series connects to itself, and I absolutely want Xeno Saga to be brought in, and the numbered game characters to meet the X characters, but I don't think this is the right time. Yeah, XDE is the most recent game, but the most recent brand new entry is Xenoblade 3, the thematic and narrative culmination of all of the numbered games, of most of the work Monolith has done on this series since 2010. So I think connecting all those guys to the Xenoblade X guys and throwing in the original Cosmos is too much too soon from the crossover perspective, so why not go in the exact opposite direction? Show me something completely different, and make me surprised, and give me that sense of childlike wonder. I know it's possible, and that is what I want to see most from the next Xenoblade.
Hey guys, it's me, NISHQUIK, from the channel NISHQUIK Pops, and I love discussing and analyzing all things Nintendo and JRPGs, with a strong emphasis on the Xenoblade Chronicles series. As many of us know, the Xeno series has some very well-developed protagonists who go on some very life-changing adventures throughout the course of their respective games and series. What I hope to see the most in Xenoblade Chronicles 4 is to have a really strong protagonist, but a protagonist whose writing and story gets really serious with their struggles and conflicts. You see, last year I played Xenogears for the very first time, and ever since then, I have been obsessed with Fei Fong Wong as a protagonist. I won't really go into details of Fei and what happens with him, but throughout the entirety of Xenogears, we see a lot of internal conflict and struggles within him. And we see a lot of conflict with Shulk, Rex, and Noah as well. But even though a lot of their conflict is internal, especially with someone like Shulk, a lot of their conflict, I feel, is a lot more external facing. My biggest wish for Xenoblade 4's protagonist is for them to not only be facing the world around them, but themselves as well. And I want Monolith Soft's writing team to get really dark with this stuff. Of course, Tetsuya Takashi's dream M-rated game probably isn't going to happen with Nintendo, but I want them to tap back into a lot of the psychological, mind-bending, and messed up stuff we see in Xenogears. Regardless of what we'll finally see with the star of the show of Xenoblade Chronicles 4, or whatever the game is going to be called, I really hope that their story will also not only be a little more serious, but also relatable, because that's what I love so much about our primary Xenoblade Chronicles protagonists. No matter what they're going through, you can still really relate to them, and they're so down to earth when it comes to a lot of the things that they're going through. One more quick thing I want to add to my wish list of this awesome Xenoblade protagonist that I'm concocting in my head is I don't want them to be directly connected to any character or any protagonist we have been going on journeys with before. Like, I don't want any of them to be a child of Rex, Shulk, or Noah. I don't want them to be a family member. I don't want any of the older characters to be a mentor to this character. I want them to be a fresh, blank slate, and I want them to cultivate a legacy on their own, because in the end, that's kind of what Xenoblade is all about. You're picking up the legacy from the past, yes, but you're forging a destiny and a legacy for yourself. So forging a future and forging a path forward without the direct connection to anyone who did the exact same thing before is going to feel so awesome and so unique. I'm so excited for whoever the protagonist is going to be in Xenoblade 4 or whatever the game is going to be called. So thank you so much, SparksOpus, for having me on this collab. Xenoblade Chronicles 4 can't come sooner. I'm so excited for the future of the Xenoblade series, and I'm so honored to be included in this collaboration with so many other awesome Xenoblade content creators.
Hey everyone, I'm XENOASTRA, aka Astra. I've been playing Xenoblade for at least 7 years now, and honestly, I feel old just saying that. My content mainly focuses on Xenoblade X, and here's what I'd love to see in a future Xenoblade game.
Wait, let me think here.
First, I'd really like to see a new sub-series. Something like the trilogy in style and scale, but completely independent in story. It could still have fun little Easter eggs that connected to the trilogy, just like Lynn's Monado hair clip in X. That kind of detail gives longtime fans something to connect with while diving into a whole new world. I'd love to explore a brand new universe with fresh characters, but with subtle references to older titles sprinkled in. I also want skills to return as a big part of the gameplay, fully interactive just like in X, where you can fly, fight, and explore in them, and on that note, I wouldn't mind seeing a customizable avatar again. Not necessarily the main character, but someone whose presence and decision shapes the way the story unfolds. But that would only apply if we had another standalone game and not a sub-series. Since the Xenoblade series is very focused around mechs, imagine if we become the mechs in Xenoblade 4. That would be really crazy. Basically, I love to see a new story with deep exploration, some Easter eggs, and skills that you can actually use. That's what I'm hoping for in Xenoblade 4. Thanks Sparks for having me on this collab.
Hello, my name is ShiftedPyro. I tend to make highly edited video essays about everyone's favorite series, Xenosaga. And we're here to talk about the next game. I just found out by Mr. Sparks that I'm not supposed to talk about the big S word. Sorry about that, no spoilers. So, my PG-13 answer to what I would like to see in the next Xenoblade game. All I want is Takahashi to surprise me. The best part about a Xenoblade game is how unique each entry is. You know, despite these games having similar battle systems, similar themes, they always have a very unique aesthetic going on with them. You know, like Xenoblade 2's more anime aesthetic. Now you have Xenoblade X going more sci-fi, space opera, etc., right? It's one of my favorite things to look forward to when a new Xenoblade game is on the horizon. Some directions I don't really bother with all that much compared to others, but I'm glad that Takahashi at least tries to mix it up a little instead of just giving me more of the same. Because similar to him, I think that can get very boring.
Hey everyone, I'm Retro Brandon, and Xenoblade has a very, very special place in my heart. I'm not obsessed. I do retro content, and while I may not have any dedicated Xenoblade videos yet, I do find an excuse to mention Xenoblade in most of my videos. And you know, what's wild to me is that the Xenoblade series started as this niche Wii RPG, and we didn't even know if we were going to get it in the West. It's got this crazy release story, and now it's one of the most emotionally resonant, consistently evolving JRPG series out there. One that I've told several people they should go check out, even if it's the last series they ever get into. So when it comes to the next Xenoblade, honestly, I just wanted to keep evolving. If we're moving forward with the ending or the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, then I'd love to have this future that is based on that, where it's built on the remnants of the old, giving us something new, with these connections to the original cast and the original story through, I don't know, legends, myths, characters with lineage, or even relics, special weapons, things like that. Like, imagine stumbling upon this, I don't know, ancient weapon that turns out to be Noah's Lucky 7, or even the Monado, or something like a character that looks faintly like Rex, but isn't quite Rex, but goes on a quest to some ancient tomb to find the family relic, and it turns out to be the Aegis. Just things like that that aren't necessarily required to understand the rest of the story, but for those of us who've played the series, you get it, you'll see it. Because that kind of thoughtful continuity is one of the things that made 3 and Future Redeemed so amazing. To me, those are the best in the series so far, and I would love to see more of that. Even if they go way off into left field somewhere with the story, those tie-ins are so meaningful for fans of the series, and I want them to keep doing that. It makes the series feel like this one big interconnected saga, not just a bunch of separate stories. And I'd really like to see them keep pulling in that Xenosaga and Xenogears lore. I'd love to see more direct connections there too, and, you know, it wouldn't hurt to also get, I don't know, a trilogy remaster, or Xenogears needs to be remade. Let's be real. As for the gameplay, I think Future Redeemed kind of hit the sweet spot. It kept the collectible side in check, made exploration meaningful, streamlined what needed streamlining, but I'd still love to see the class building and everything that we got in 3, because it was just so good, especially if they can keep that musical style too, because 3 soundtrack, it is one of the best soundtracks of all time, and it may or may not still make me cry. Honestly though, with this team, it's hard to imagine them missing. I could dream up a whole new game all day long, and if they delivered something dramatically different, it's still probably going to be better than whatever I came up with. They just keep pushing themselves. They've proven that they care about the worlds they build and the stories that they're telling, so wherever the next journey takes us, I will be there day one. Anyway, thanks for having me on, Sparks, and check me out over at Retro Brandon to see more of my content over there. See ya.
How's it going, everyone? My name is KAYJULERS, and I've been a huge fan of the Xeno series since 2014. creating a plethora of videos analyzing the series' stories, characters, and cutscenes, as well as goofier videos like challenge runs, Xeno-themed game shows, and the Xenoblade Olympics. But the question I'm here to answer today is, what would I like to see with the next title in the franchise? And there's really only one answer I could possibly give. The Nintendo Direct begins with a black screen. Quickly, the Monolith Soft logo fades in, and people start freaking out over Xenoblade Chronicles 4. And then... boom! Xenogears is back, baby! Let's go! It's another watch. Why are we still here? Putting aside my pipe dream, let's seriously talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 4. I'd personally want the game to present us with a new world and universe to explore. Something really unique and with a strong identity, grabbing your attention like the Bionis and Mechonis from the original title. Areas should feel distinct, creative, and maybe go beyond the original archetype of your water, fire, and grass area. They should give the player that wow factor like Valak Mountain at night or Uriah. I'd also love to see these environments have interactable elements, maybe even areas that aren't accessible until receiving later power-ups like a Metroidvania or Xenoblade Chronicles Free's field skills. Hell, this is a huge long shot, but I absolutely adore seasonal mechanics in games. I wouldn't mind some sort of extension to the game's internal clock that leads to environmental changes, which grant access to new sections like Pokemon Black and White did. I'd also like to explore this world with a new cast of characters, with few established connections to the past. Any of these past connections are things I'd actually prefer to be saved for reveals in the later half of the game. On another note, one gripe I've had with the Xenoblade Chronicles series previously is that I felt like side quests too often never provide the player with a unique physical takeaway. For the most part, it's just gold, new cosmetic weapons, and usually some equipment. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 stepped it up with the narrative significance of these quests, but I look to Majora's Mask as a game that has me excited to do quests every time because of the tangible rewards I receive from unique quests. For Xenoblade Chronicles 4, either the number of quests could be reduced, or perhaps preferably, a new subcategory is created and filled with quests that produce these tangible rewards. What could these rewards be? Possibly unique clothing sets with signature perks, beyond just a higher gem level. Cosmetics for a customizable home base, or, if we really want to get crazy, make certain weapons unlockable with unique arts. In a way, that's not too far off from what we've had previously with some of the rare blades or heroes being unlocked through quests. But those are just my quick thoughts on what I'd want from Xenoblade Chronicles 4. Thank you to SparksOpus for having me on the video, and until next time, y'all.
And there we have it, the biggest Xenoblade collaboration that exists on this platform. Continuing the trend of doing videos for the series that haven't been done before. Honestly, I'm so proud of this project. Obviously, this video was inspired by Celtic, and while watching it, I thought that it must be cool to do collabs like these, at that size. It is easier to do if you're well established on the platform already. Like, if Celtic asked anyone for a collab, who would say no, right? Someone like me, on the other hand, could never do anything close to that. I mean, who am I really? And that's when I realized I have free will, so I went ahead and emailed a bunch of creators that are known for their relation to the Xenoblade games in any form. Honestly, I'm still a bit shocked at how many accepted my invitation. Though I find it a bit unfortunate how I mostly either received a yes or no answer at all. Like not even a response. Granted, maybe some of them just simply haven't seen my message. Maybe because them kinda just vanishing in the inbox. Or maybe there are a lot of people like me who do invite them into videos and they simply don't want to respond to all of them, almost considering them as spam. Though, I actually did get a response from SUPERSAVAJIN, who unfortunately had to decline for similar reasons and him not being available right now. And also DARYLTALKSGAMES, who also would have participated, but unfortunately also lacks some time right now, and also probably in the foreseeable future. And yeah, I totally get it. But the fact that I have still gotten a response means really a lot to me. It just shows that a person cared enough to at least decline the offer, so for that, a massive shout out to both of you. Thank you for the response. Okay, so SparksOpus from the future here, which is technically still the past from your perspective. I actually got also a yes from HMK, which I got 3 weeks ago. Obviously I started sending out emails way in advance so people could find the time for it without any stress. Although a 2-minute audio was all I needed really. But after 2 follow-up emails I kinda gave up on it. I assume that he simply forgot about it, because even in his response he said that my first email was pretty much buried in his inbox, which is why he replied a bit later. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that he also answered at all. Half of the people didn't, so shout out to HMK. Unfortunate that he forgot about it, but it'd be like that sometimes, I can't be mad. I also tend to be forgetful. But yeah, that's all I wanted to mention. You can also find a link to their channels in the description below. Once again, to all creators, thank you all very much for participating, and I hope you, dear viewer, also enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, genuinely. If you have any ideas and wishes for a future Xenoblade, feel free to share your ideas in the comments, or maybe leave a like and share the video with friends or other Xenoblade fans on social media. Folks, I wish you all a really good day, and hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye everyone. Man, honestly though, I don't like the fact that... I don't know, it should have been 20 YouTubers. It's just a nicer number. 15 would have been nice too, but I won't cut out other people for that. If you're asking me, that's the biggest dilemma and flaw of this video. Oh algorithm, may you not punish me for not going with the flow, please.